What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another TcgScrubs podcast, episode 73, with a special guest with us,
whoop, whoop.
Jeremy
Should
Franklin.
I grab the gloves?
Go for it.
I'll go get the gloves.
I'll continue introducing you. But Jeremy Franklin, a.k.a. DM073, which is why we have him on this week for 73. You can find him over at Ruler School. You guys probably already know that.
Okay, I gotta put these on, I guess, if I'm being official. Oh, I haven't worn these in so long. And okay, they're on. We're good. I can start now.
But yeah, thanks for joining us. We had a week break. Everybody was out of town, and now we're back, episode 73. And we're going to go over some cool topics today. But to start with, we also have Colin with us from Team ARG. And we have Joey from Joe's Corner coming a little bit later. So we'll have a little...
You'll be surprised.
A little cut there in the middle, and he'll be with us. But yeah, so you had a giveaway, right, Colin?
Yeah, we had a giveaway. If you guys missed it, this is the last of it, so that sucks. But courtesy of Happy Little Hug Factory, they gave us 3 of the new Valhalla Star Decks, and so this was the last one, which is the green Star Deck. So after this, we'll ship all 3 Star Decks out this coming week. So if you guys won the previous 2 or this one, be sure to look out for that. Let me draw the winner now for the green. Is Jason Lay? It's a cool last name. And so, yeah, I'll go ahead and send you an email here. Hopefully you are in the continental U.S. Hopefully. But, yeah,
crossed.
so I'll send you an email, so be on the lookout for that in case you're not hearing this. Email should already be sent, but congratulations on the new Valhalla Green Starter Deck.
And thank you for everybody who entered, and thank you to Happy Little Hug Factory for supplying those. Again, you guys are looking for the new set. You can find that at their website. Link in the description below so they know we sent you over. They also have some singles as well as a buy list you can check out for Force Wheel and Caster Chronicles, so if that's your thing. And we had other stuff.
Also... and and for on the caster side, it looks like they are sold out on the booster box. I think they might have some star decks, but you guys got a lot of the stuff from them. Also, the from Play DPK with their magnetic playmat. Link in the description below for that. We did the video on that, and we'll hopefully have a gameplay video using that magnetic playmat outside.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That thing's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I was super sad that I was going to breed it to the Minnesota GP. I ended up breeding 0 playmats because, golly, it's hard to fit everything for 4 days in one something that can fit under your seat because I don't want to pay for a carry-on. But,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and also, if you guys missed it, I have a video going over it, but the GP that was in New York was canceled, but they have a new one that is going to be taking place in Pennsylvania, just 2 hours from the airport. If you guys were already planning to go to New York, just go to this one instead. It's actually closer to the airport. But I highly recommend going to TcgScrubs.com, and on the banner on the main page, I have an article with all the information for it, and I'm constantly updating it. I've updated it, I think, almost every day since I've made it. Todd Dryspick, who's been helping put everything together for it, has been really awesome about getting all that information. They have some really cool stuff. They just secured a vendor for it to sell singles. They now have VIP packaging. Any information you could need.
Yep, I just sent them some will coins as well.
Nice.
For them to use as some prizing.
Really
and I know that Todd is working on finishing up the details on. He's hinted at it already. It's called Blitz format, and it's not particularly a different format of Force of Will. It's a tournament format. And it's designed to help people who want to play inside events but don't want to commit to a full 3-round Swiss event because they just want to keep going and keep playing. So we'll have more details if he locks it in. But it actually sounds like it's going to be a super fun event.
That actually sounds really cool. That sounds like my type of thing.
Yeah, just event's over. Next one. Event's over. Next one.
Oh, I lost. Okay, I don't have to stick around.
Exactly.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll try to remember to put a link in the description for that article, but if not, just go to TcgScrubs.com for that. But yeah, that's all I can think of for housekeeping, Oscar.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and jump into it then. So we had some stuff that's going on with new cards coming out. Spoilers. We had 42 of the 100 cards revealed, I believe, if I'm keeping numbers correct.
That sounds about right.
And we kind of want to go over... Huh?
I said it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, I keep going to the spoilers page on the database, and he's usually within like an hour or two of uploading whenever they've released for the day. So last I checked was 41. I think one came out today or yesterday, maybe. So 42, 43.
Oh yeah, that weird one. Yeah.
The new red
edition,
Ancient Ruins came out today.
Yeah, we thought it was interesting. We're looking at it when I went to locals today, but so I want to kind of go over things like standout cards that you guys have noticed that you're looking forward to, things that you hope you see, different stuff like that. Kind of
sure.
Rolling into casual talk on that.
Yeah, I am. I've been really. I'll talk about 3 points. I'll talk about one thing that I'm really excited to see, one thing that I'm disappointed in, and one thing that I'm hoping to see more of. Mm-hmm. Particularly, one thing that I'm really excited to see has been the new Isis Master Rune. Mm. I talked about this actually with Colin a little bit in Minnesota, but Isis has... She's wanted to be burn, right? But like the weirdness of burn is that like you just kind of have to kill your opponent faster than you. But the problem is we have a lot of really fast decks, so like she would just kind of die before she got to a place where she was comfortable to be able to actually control the board and like burn things off. And the new Isis Master Rune, I think, actually complements that really well because it's burn. It's like incidental burn while also being effective removal for pretty much anything that costs like 3 or less. Like, she can just pay 2 burn things and then just incidentally burn your opponent. So just, like, actually seeing the support that's come out for Isis, starting at least in the Master Rune, and I hope we see more of it, actually support what Isis wants to be doing, like, that's really cool in my mind. And I want to see more of that. I've never really been a burn player, but weirdly enough, Isis feels like a control deck, not a burn deck, so I've actually had more fun with her than... I initially thought I would. One thing that I am disappointed in is Lich's Master Rune. Absolutely,
yeah.
Nothing about that card said Lich to me. They were just like, yeah, okay. And you get to RFG a thing and make them discard a card that matches that same color, which in a monocolor format you're going to probably hit. Good job. But also it costs 4, even if you're Lich, and it's not quick cast. What?
Well, it's like if someone came up to you and showed you Blade of Faith and was like, but for 3 more, you can discard a card if it matches the color of the one you removed, which means if it's a dual color deck, you'll never discard a green card that's going to counter you.
Yeah.
Then
so like
you'd be like, well, no, I'll do the one cost.
In my mind, that card should have been like RFG something your opponent controls, which would like, okay, that's spot removal, but then like resurrect something from your graveyard whose cost is like equal to that plus 2.
Oh, that'd be legit.
Like
that would have been
like
cool.
So
that's
it's
a
like
good idea.
So like you kill a 3-drop, bring back a 5-drop from your graveyard. Okay, great. That would have been in Lich's color pot. Like that would have been in Lich's color like wheelhouse of what he's trying to do, right? But like peeking at your opponent's hand has been discard, which has been Lucifer.
We may have
so
lost
it's like
Jeremy there for a second. So
yeah, I was making sure it wasn't just me.
Am I back?
Yes, I think you're back.
Okay.
Sorry, my internet sometimes is wonky. At least my recording is still going, so you can kind of edit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But like that card is discard, which is Lucifer, right? So it's not even Lich. Like it was just like they just want to make Lich do what Lucifer does, but like Lucifer just does it better. So it's like, no, why didn't you just make his Master Rune something actually Lich related? That was where I was like really disappointed.
I think there have.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think it just might be they're having trouble trying to figure out how tribal works. They have idea in their head of the color pie kind of, and so like, oh, black does discard, so da. But tribal doesn't work like that. I mean, it works under the umbrella of the color pie, but then you go tribal, so Lich shouldn't be doing what Lucifer does, but better. But yeah,
right, exactly. And then so it's just kind of like. Lich has just kind of been the I'm also darkness color, like ruler, as opposed to like actually having his own standalone concept and mechanic within darkness. He's just like, I'm here too. Hey. So that's been disappointing because Lich actually is a fun ruler to play, and like that Master Rune just like was really disappointing.
Yeah.
Now in terms of what I want to see, I'm really hoping that Light gets deck peaking, like deck manipulation. for Adam Sykart, because I think there's a lot of... I think his Master Rune as a whole is interesting, right? Because it's probably a pay 1, draw 2, right? But it's a reveal, so that's a little bit awkward. But we've already seen White have 4C. Like, White has had that in this cluster. So if you support that Master Rune with deck manipulation to, like, set up and almost kind of make him like a Shion kind of style ruler, like, can you, like, imagine having Adam Sykart flipped on your opponent's turn, and you've been doing all this setup, and then they got to do something, and you're just like, cool, quick cast Awaken this thing. I know what the 3 cards are. They're all like a 6-drop, a 7-drop, and an 8-drop because I've been manipulating the deck. I'm going to gain 5 life. Bam, bam, bam. Like, that would be really, really cool and actually give Adam something to work off of. But I need to see more of the set for that to happen. And so I'm hoping it's there because of the fact that White has already had 4C up to this point. Do I think it's going to happen? Who knows? But that would be something that I would want to see.
Yeah, I found it interesting that because we've actually gotten I feel like a decent amount of cards that involve like, hey, if this card is in the top 5 cards of your deck or whatever, you draw it or put it in the field or something like that. But there's been like almost outside of the, like you mentioned, like the 4C1 Angel and random stuff like that. There's been nothing that helps look at or fix the top of your deck, which is usually what accompanies those types of cards, which you know, in one sense is fine because you don't want it to bear out of control, but there's definitely ways you can do it without going crazy. And so I always thought that was, I've been sitting here expecting for like the punch of like, all right, here's these cards that help look at or, you know, Shion type stuff with your deck. And I keep not seeing them, which I thought was interesting because I feel like it feels like it's meant to have that at some point, and we're missing that.
Yeah, I mean, even like if you look at, there's even the rune from this past set, which was like, look at the top 5, put in a fairy tale, right? Like, it's in white, and it becomes a recover if you miss. So like, you couple that with like this new Master Rune from Adam, and it's just like, yeah, but Adam could be doing so much like top deck digging for like hitting cool stuff, but like he doesn't have a way to guarantee things. Like the recover your 3 stones rune, like at least that's a backup, right? For like, oh, I whiffed, get it back. You know what I mean? But like the Master Rune doesn't have anything like that, and I would like to see the rest of white flush that out for Adam. Because Brunhild has enough.
Brunhild's pretty set. She needs like a couple of things to maybe maintain, just once and throw her a bone once in a while. But Adam needs some love.
Yeah, for sure.
Something I was kind of disappointed in seeing, and me and Colin were talking about just the other day, was that the theory behind, hey, when they're really good, they won't get nearly as much support. When they're not as good, expect some better support. And then that good example is just the whole Lich situation. It's just like...
Yeah, and I think part of that came down to that promise was made before the company change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably it comes down to the people who are at least having a better influence over design, particularly AG and Jeff and some of the people who are close to Jeff in the design team, had good ideas for implementing something like that, and then you have a change in design. And we've talked about this before. I mean, like Jeff himself has talked about it in the Q&As, how, you know, the design philosophy from a Japanese company is traditionally different. And so this idea of, we say if it's broken, we need to fix it, right? We need to balance things out, right? It's all about balance. And traditional Japanese is like, if something's really good, then everyone's going to play it. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what's happened is, and I think that in the midst of the restructuring, there hasn't been a counteracting voice, and the plans for implementation in terms of doing that power balancing, I think, got lost in the mix, unfortunately.
Yeah, I say it feels like how we had heard that philosophy during the Sherry thing of like they feel it's more about like having this. They want just a couple strong decks or even one strong deck, and everything else is just sort of flavor surrounding that. And that's kind of what it felt like it really felt like that with the Lich Master Rune, where it's felt like purposefully not making it good because it's meant to just be ancillary to the main decks like Brunhild and all that, and that's what they're focusing on, and they'll make it throw out stuff so that other stuff is playable for fun, but it's not. They're trying to purposely not make stuff super strong, which feels like their old philosophy.
And it does feel kind of weird because this is happening in quote-unquote the widest format that Force of Will's ever had. Like, so like that's
cool.
really weird, right? Like, we have this thing where they were saying like we would balance everything and we would give more people who weren't doing as well more support, and we're like, yeah, where is that? But at the same time, you look at tournament reports and you're like, oh, like things are actually still pretty wide. Like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's and it's one of those things where I'm curious where this will go for. And I had talked about this actually that like couple minutes you were away at Minnesota when I was just by myself. I was saying like how this next format, I think, because we're super wide and diverse right now, and we're looking at the spoilers here, and it feels like the main stuff is going up a notch in power level, but it feels like at least 3 of the colors or so, or 3 of the rulers, are all going up a notch. It doesn't feel like one is going up a notch. All of them are going up a notch. So we might see a weird thing where it's like the power level is ramped up a lot higher than we've seen it in the past year and a half. But the power level is high and enough of the board that we still see this spread. It's just a way more vicious format.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you on that. Like, there's some weirdness to where, like, it also is going to come down to the ban list. Because the company is still standing, at least as far as we know, is still standing that the ban list should be updated with this, at least, even if there is no change, they will update it every 3 months. So there are some cards that I can think of off the top of my head that, if the company did decide to ban, could like throw a really huge wrench into the situation. Like, I'll say from the instance of if they make the decision with all the cards that they're printing to say, you know what, we're gonna ban last days of a powerless Dragonoid. Like, they're gonna just decide. They're like, we just printed a bunch of fire support. Spell-based fire support. We want people to be able to play them. This spell is easily splashable and just says no to any of them. We're gonna cancel it. Congratulations, both Isis and Fushi are immediately valuable, in my opinion. Like, because that dragon spell, that dragon rune, like, that is a Misty Dragon Spirit from the deck. That is a Godark Welser into double Misty Dragon Spirit from the deck. That is also burning 2 things for 8. Like, that is absolutely a real thing. Isis gets to feel super comfortable playing just a deck full of burn spells. Like, to just be like, you know, I would imagine she starts playing Heaven Sundering Dragon Palms and Dragon Ores and stuff to give herself strength counters so she can start awakening stuff for extra burn damage. Like, I can see that happening. The problem is that it's currently curtailed by last days, right? But if you see that card banned, ta-da, that opens up a lot of things. Like, it is, like you're saying, a lot of different things just got spiked in power. So, like, things about to get really volatile, but absolutely at the same time looking at it, there's nothing in the set so far that's made me think, okay, this is going to be clear best deck and format. We're going to go down to a 1-deck format again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's stuff that has me worried, but it's less competitive level and more just like, this could be kind of... the only thing that has me a little bit worried so far is the Master Rune of declaring blockers, but even that can be curtailed, I think. I think we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But that's really the only worrisome card.
It's a very polarizing card. You and I talked about this in Minneapolis. Like, when that card is good, it's amazing. When that card is bad, it's so bad.
It's a heavy card, yeah.
So bad. Yeah.
That's going to be wait and see.
Yeah.
Real quick break. Joey didn't join us initially, but he is here now, so we're going to edit real quick, and then he'll be here. So 1 second. Okay, so they're kind of going over... so do you have more things to go over for that ban list now that Joey's here?
Oh, sure.
Potential ban list?
In terms of the cards that I would want to see potentially hit, last day, it's going to be probably a lot of green. I'd also... I'm not entirely sold on that it needs to be banned, but I'm still watching Messenger of the Sun, particularly because there are some strategies in this format, some decks and some concepts in this format that I think could be really awesome, but they require additions, right? And so Messenger of the Sun, it's more of these, like the cards that I would want to see potentially get banned aren't necessarily like problems, but I would call them gatekeepers. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, if it doesn't get banned, I'm not going to be disappointed. But if it does get banned, I'm going to be real happy, because suddenly we get like a lot of new concepts get to get played, right? Like, you know, there's just a lot of things that can be brought into. So like that's a gatekeeper. I'm really not a huge fan of martial arts tournament, particularly because Kira can play ground and air supremacy or martial, or maybe even I just say let's just get rid of ground and air supremacy. Maybe that's the card to target, not martial arts tournament, because that card just gives aggro such an explosive, sticky start that there are just some decks that just go like, okay, like I legitimately can't play. Because I'm playing against this deck. I can't exist in the format because of this card. I'd also kind of want to get rid of Resuscitating Will. Particularly because, yes, I know IU just did really well, but IU is also a pretty big, like, sudden gatekeeper. And I think that deck can still survive without being the, like, one-hit kill style deck. And Resuscitating Will, I just think is, like, yeah, okay. I'm just not a huge fan of like one-hit KOs, so maybe that's that. I mean, I'll admit, but again, if Resuscitating Will wasn't banned, I'm not gonna be like, it should have been banned. It's just kind of like, in my ideal world, I would want to see this card gone. You know what I mean?
I get you. So
yeah,
I still can't see Joey.
The way he records, his computer just can't handle.
Yeah, my computer can't handle both.
Okay,
like,
no worries.
Discord on this stream,
but
it's really frustrating.
Joey, we're kind of going over kind of stuff that we're excited to see in the new set and kind of how it's standing out so far, and then we kind of rolled into Jeremy's potential ban list. But I'll say stuff that I'm excited to see is a lot of this white ramp type things, and I'm like, I know Colin's not a huge fan of it. But, like, having run Brunhild, I'm like, I don't know how much more you can fit into this deck already, either in New Frontiers or Cluster type situation to take advantage of it all. But I do see some benefits to some of the cards already. So I'm kind of excited to see what we can do with the white. And then the last card I'm actually really excited about is that black card that mills 10. Only because I don't know what I can use that for yet, but I'm excited.
I'm going to make it
work. It's fine. It's fine. They're just gonna print the card that says if this card's on your field and you run out of cards, you win the game.
Yeah.
Real quick, Oscar. I just want to say, Oscar, just because your thing of like, I don't know how you fit that in New Frontiers. You're literally saying like, man, my wallet's so full. Where am I going to put all this extra money? Like, that's not a good problem to have. And but and also as a side thing, real quick, I agree with you, Jeremy. I've been always super sad that editions always have just too much hate that they can never stand, and I love editions a lot.
It's just incidental.
And they just never
the problem. It's just incidental edition hate. Like if Messenger of the Sun was just a 2-drop 2/4 that said every time you play a rune, draw a card, I'd be like, yeah, that seems really good, but I'm okay with it.
Or even like he keeps that banished, but it costs 2, and then you banish him to do it, or something like something that makes it so it's just not a free kill, whatever.
Yeah, it's just not like, hey, what's up, free kill? You know what I mean?
I played Force of Will earlier today with my locals. I had a machine deck steal my Messenger of the Sun and sack it to destroy my Minerva. What's it called? Country in the Sun.
Oh yeah, Country in the Sun.
That hurt.
That's awesome.
Right? Like there are so many cool cards that just can't get played. Like Minerva is a really cool card, and it adds for some really interesting play lines, but like there's just incidental edition hate, and you're like, yeah, okay.
When Oscar and I were talking about the yellow ramp edition last spoiler thing, it was like I just completely forgotten that Messenger of the Sun just is also because he never does that. He never tries to do that. He just exists, and it's like
right, exactly.
Frustrating.
So like imagine playing an IMOL deck right now where you can drop like turn 1 Messenger of the Sun into like, and then you like double float it on your opponent's turn to do some shenanigans, and then like you go to your turn and you can like go like, okay, pay 3 play. I think that edition's a 3-drop, right? That produces 1 every turn.
It's a 2-drop.
Oh, 2-drop. Even better. So you're just like, play this 2-drop. Use my So you like tap for stone. You have 2 stones in your Messenger of the Sun. You're like Messenger or Apostle of whatever. The 1-drop ramp guy that I can't know names. So you use that to pay for 1, and then use 1 of your stones. Play that thing. Untap the speaker on your opponent's turn. Sitting at 2 resources to play with your opponent's turn, and then you're like, cool. Go into my turn. Have 5. Let's go. I'm Imul. Let's have some fun. You know what I mean? Like that seems super fun. But then Messenger of the Sun's just like, top of the morning. I'm going to destroy that. You're like, well, okay. You did it. Good job. Proud of you.
Yeah, it's definitely like a... I definitely agree. I think Colin feels the same way about Lorite, about being like a gate for abilities and stuff. He's not a big fan of that.
It's a little bit less now.
I'd be okay with Lorite being gone. But like if he doesn't go, I think we're at a place right now where if he doesn't go, it's okay. Like,
yeah, he's not as bad anymore. I still think he's a little bit annoying, especially in a format where flipping your J ruler costs so much, and you get that horn ability.
Just like,
but
yeah, for sure.
In a mono format and where it is right now, it's not as big a deal as long as there isn't power green decks that creep in again. We're in a format where Gil is really the only green deck I think that made it into top 8 and stuff like that. So
in Minneapolis, consistently anyway, Gil's the only one who consistently makes it.
Yeah,
Hanzo has to rely on other colors at this point to keep himself viable.
Yeah, so it's not too big a deal right now. But if Green ever made a comeback, then Lorite should 100% go.
And like I said, there hasn't been anything in this format that's like screaming at me to be banned, which weirdly enough is like a really nice problem to have, right? It's just there are these gatekeeper cards that we just have to think about. Like, is being a gatekeeper, having now experienced what this healthy, diverse meta is. There being gatekeepers, something that needs to be acted against. And we'll have to wait and see. Like, right now, in green, I haven't seen anything in this set that supports Gil, outside of the Chimimi Master Rune, because you can search it once. But let's be honest, if you're going to swing for the kill with Gil, you were already going to swing for the kill with Gil, regardless of what they had. Right? So, like, that Chimimi Master Rune is not doing Gil any favors. None of the green Seimei stuff, like the Yin Yang Master stuff, that ain't Gil. That's like Hanzo. That's like Hanzo shenanigans, which seems really dope. Like that gives Hanzo a new archetype to experiment with, and that's really fun, in my mind. Weirdly enough, because he got a new Master Rune last set, so it's just like nah. Let's just make more Hanzo stuff. But like, it's gonna be interesting to see if, seeing as there's nothing that needs to be terribly acted on, if that justifies acting on the gatekeepers, and if so, what that creates for the new format. If there was ever a card that I think actually, like, I would be willing to take a small, insignificant bet against someone that I would see that card banned, I'd probably say Last Days. But even then, I can't, like, 100% certainty say that card's going to go.
I don't, especially with the new company, I wouldn't see them banning Last Day, since it's not like a big problem card, and they're more of on the standoff until I would assume until something's a big problem. And so I didn't feel, obviously I could be wrong, but it felt like Last Days obviously is super annoying, and it, like you said, it's keeping stuff at bay, but it doesn't feel like that's the thing. That's the killer of worlds.
I can't really single-handedly point out a card and say that card needs to be banned. Like, there's not a distortion of time in the format. There's not a Leviathan in the format. There's not a Reflect Refrain in the format, even in the ruler side. Like, there's not a Scheherazade. There's not a Jin. There's not a single card that I can point to and say that's got to go.
Yeah,
which is nice.
I thought when I saw Table Flip, Blade.
You guys freaked out so hard about Table Flip.
Oh yeah, no.
I remember watching that video and just being like, "Oh, come on, guys."
I freaked out about Table Flip. I freaked out about Blade of Faith, and I freaked out about Mistletoe. And like none of those have been proven to be huge, giant.
Blade of
issues.
Faith is pretty annoying, but
yeah, it's really annoying, but it's just really efficient, really good removal, and I guess that's okay to have so
it's
far.
It's just Heteroclite Excalibur without a -5. Like, we played Heteroclite Excalibur for a long time, and it was annoying as crap, but no one complained about it. It's just that.
Yeah, so I agree. Like, we haven't seen anything huge coming out that is ban worthy. I don't think.
Yeah, no.
And I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Makes streaming way more fun. Way more fun when it's not just like, oh, look, another Sherry mirror.
Yeah.
It's
It's
been really nice because I'm thinking, like, we have a deck of us fairly valuable deck in, like, every single color, like, now.
Most.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah, pretty
well,
much.
I mean,
blue, black, green, white, red. Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I would like to see more.
We've had a deck in every color top this season.
I'd like to see more Keurig, like
Keurig,
other Keurig, other aggressive
Gil,
red decks.
Hanzo, Ayu, Brunhild, Pandas.
I want to see.
Layla,
I want to see more.
Loki.
I'm hoping for more blue shenanigans. Is what I'm hoping for.
Like,
blue decks
I think
are most fun
dude,
to watch.
watch out for Garmheld. That card is gonna. You're gonna see mystery boxes on turn 4, and you're gonna go, what?
Yeah.
I think blue is they went really in an interesting way, like with the like weird machine stuff and like awakening into Mosasaurus and stuff, and then you also have IU is coming back now. I mean, she's not really blue, but she's
That new
I
Loki
consider it
Master
blue.
Rune. Man, that card is an absolute cannon.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I'm just like, oh,
I thought that card looked awesome.
On the subject of what you were talking about earlier, though, I still don't get the correlation between that and Loki.
oh, I agree.
I still don't get. It's an
Absolutely
awesome
agree.
card.
It has
really
great
like
correlation
it.
with. It has great correlation with Garmheld, which has connection to Loki. So, I guess, but like,
Kind of connection to Loki.
It's the Master Runes. So the weirdness of the Master Runes has been like, okay, so let me look at the Master Runes that we got set to. We got Table Flip, which was directly connected to the T Master and not Hanzo. We got
Blade of Fate.
the Blade of Faith, which is connected to Mistletoe, not it's connected to Mistletoe, not Brunhild. We got 3 Kingdoms Partition Plan, which is connected to Zhuge Liang, not
I forgot about
Bushi.
that.
We got the sword, whatever, the 3-drop Soul Prison, which is connected to Astema, not Lucifer. And then we got the blue Master Rune was Skynet, which is connected to Guinevere, not Arthur. So weirdly enough, the Master Runes are connected to the super rares, not the actual ruler.
Yeah, I didn't even
so
think
then,
about
like,
that.
if you look at this set so far, we had the 3-drop Master Rune or the Nuchimimi Master Rune is connected to the mouse. We have the Black Master Rune is connected to Oborozuki. We have the Delphinus Master Rune is connected to Delphinus. Like, I don't think Delphinus is the super rare. I don't think we've seen the white super rare yet. So we'll probably see it. It's probably IU. Like, IU is probably the super rare there. We've seen the blue Master Rune is connected to Garmheld, which is the blue super rare, and the red Master Rune is connected to a red super that we haven't seen yet. Right?
But
it's
see, the
connected
only
to Nyarlathotep, right?
Oh, Nyarlathotep. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
connected to
Yeah.
Jarl, which we've seen.
Yeah.
So weirdly
Yeah.
enough, these Master Runes are like additional power that's being brought to the ruler by that color's super rare.
Yeah, I
See,
think
that's
I'd never
cool.
considered
The only thing about it is with the Lich specifically is you're running the problem where Arthur, the ruler, when you flip him, at least when I've played with machines, that's objectively worse of having his enter effect than just keeping him on his ruler side, because you lose the cards that you were actually trying to get. And I feel like you're going to run into a similar problem, because if you're playing Loki how it's supposed to be played with Awakenings, you're going to be grabbing potentially a Resonator with an Awakening that you now physically can't do, and could potentially be the only reason you're running that Resonator that bypasses what Loki does, which is Awakenings. And that was the only weird thing I found with that Master Rune.
Yeah, that's been the weird things for the most of it, really. Like, Hanzo, when it first started, at least, wasn't particularly about combat tricks. It was about like swarming you beat down. Like it was like both Chimimi and Hanzo were beat down decks. And then they were like, "Oh, cool. So combat tricks now?" Cool. And then like this new green one also kind of turns Chimimi into a combat trick deck, right? In that same way. And like Oborozuki has always been kind of about like Dark has always been like removal, like ugh, you know what I mean? Like hard kill stuff, and both of the new Master Runes are like these hard removals with an upside. So like, and then we look at the blue Master Runes, right? So the blue Master Runes, this is where I think the blue Master Runes are where we see the biggest like twist, right? Is because the blue Master Rune for Skynet is about having synergy to do a board wipe. The blue Master Rune of the new one is about finding utility for what Loki needs. And I think I actually think that's why I think it plays really well with Garmheld. Because Garmheld is just like a will-producing machine for Loki. So the idea of using that Master Rune to grab you a Garmheld, and then you go, well, cool, next turn I'm going to Judgment Loki, use Garmheld, and cast a gigantic Awakening. Like, wait right off of it. Like, that at least has, like, some semblance of a concept. But, like, you're right in the sense that is a little bit weird, right? The Reds were both kind of about doing the kind of removal that you needed kind of thing. Like, the Red Master Rune is about this, like, cheap early game spot removal, which has never necessarily been Fushi's problem because he's playing, like, the explosions and he's got the red 1-drop that, like, it is an 8/8. It can kill stuff. Like, early game removal wasn't necessarily Fushi's problem. It was about, like, how do I survive to the late, like, how do I match wide boards? And so Three Kingdoms Partition Plan kind of helped that. So, like, it's been weird, right? The Master Runes have been really swingy in terms of, like, how actually synergistic they have been with the ruler, as opposed to, like, how supportive they are of what the ruler wants to do. Like, it's weird. It's not necessarily, and I think it's actually more so that they're not tied to the ruler. Like, they're tied to what the ruler wants to do, which is they haven't gotten perfect. Like, close, but not perfect. Hence Skynet.
I think Joey had a question. He had mentioned a question the other day in our chat, Joey, for Jeremy.
Sure.
It's kind of tied to the whole future of the meta and the way things are going.
Yeah. I remember watching the stream, and you guys are talking about the best deck in the format being Gil, and because he's actually won the past like 5 or 6 events, I think.
6. Past 6 events.
And somebody had mentioned that, so I was wondering what your thoughts on that are. Do you think we were still in a healthy meta, even though Gil might be considered best deck in the format? Do you think he is best deck in the format?
So I still think that Gil is the best deck in format. From a mechanical and card building standpoint, right? What the deck wants to do, how it supports itself. And even in the interview that I do with Sean Paul at the end of Minneapolis, he talks about Gil is a combo deck that has the tools to prevent the aggro decks from killing him, and has the tools to, if it needs to switch to control, beat the control mirror. Like, so like Gil, from a deck building perspective and what the deck is trying to do, I think is best deck in format. However, that card, that ruler, that deck is insanely difficult to pilot. Like, you need to put the reps in. And don't get me wrong, I think that players can build him. I think that even against a skilled player, he can be beat. I think that people, weirdly enough, I think that Gil scares players in terms of not wanting to learn how to play it. Because you really do need to learn how to play it. But it's kind of one of those, it has the highest payoff for the amount of work put into it. You know what I mean? Where if you don't put the work into, it's kind of one of those things where, like, if you pick up a Keurig deck, right? if you pick up a Keurig deck and you're okay with it, like you say you play 10 games with that deck total, like not even matches, just 10 games, you'll be able to sit down and probably, as long as you're not playing against a bad matchup, you'll probably win about 50 to 60% of your games. Just from those 10 games worth of experience. If you sit down as Gil and you play 10 games, you're probably still sitting at about a 20-30% win rate. Just because there are so many decision trees, and what do I keep, what do I discard, when do I dig, all of the subtle nuances of remembering to banish an elemental during your opponent's turn, even if you're not going to cast something, because you want to flood the RFG zone, so that when you flip Gil, you have like 6 searches ready to go. Like, there's a lot of subtle nuances to the way that Gil is played. The average player on freshly picking up Gil is not going to get. And so it is also it's just easy to outplay yourself playing that deck because you didn't respect the deck enough to give it the time that it deserved in terms of practice. But like, and that's what I would say is the gatekeeper to Gil, is people just don't want to put in the practice. But if you put in the practice, you're gonna do great. Like, you're gonna probably have a really good time being successful because the deck is just that good. It's one of those things where in the hands of a great play, it's, you know what? Here it is. In the old days of the reflect refrain mirrors, right? Or even sooner earlier than that, Sherry, right? A good Sherry player versus an average player on any other deck, the good Sherry player will win. An average Sherry player against average players on every other deck is a toss-up. A good Sherry player versus an average Sherry player, the good Sherry player wins every time. Like, it's not even a toss-up. It was the same way back in Reflect Refrain. Great Reflect Refrain player versus a person playing any other ruler, Reflect Refrain player was going to walk away winning. If you had a good player, Reflect Refrain player versus a bad one, or an average one, the good one was going to win every time. The average ones were where you were going to see that fluctuation in win rate. Gil is absolutely the same way. Like, if you have a great Gil player, there's not going to be much against like the average player that's going to be able to stop them.
I had a question. So,
yeah,
with what we've seen so far spoiled, is there anything that Gil's going to pick up? Or is he still just set to run as he is?
Weirdly enough, I actually think Gil has a crosshairs on his back right now. So one of the things that Gil struggles with is go wide decks. Just as a whole, it is one of the things that Gil struggles with, and it's why they've adapted to playing the assassin package, because they need these bodies on board that are like also kind of tempo creatures, and they need to chip you because they're now a combo deck as opposed to a control deck that it used to be. The new green Master Rune for Chimimi doesn't target. Doesn't target. So flip your Gil, don't have a cancel ready because you can't use Fair Spell on it. You have to vanish it, or you have to use Ruin Story on it. And so for Chimimi, she's only going to pay 1 for it, right? She's just going to go, oh, cool Gil, bro. I've got 6 bodies on board. You dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and even there are other decks that are going to be able to splash that card in this. Brunhild absolutely is going to sideboard that card for the Gil matchup, because Gil can't keep up with the wide board state that Brunhild puts out because the bodies are just kind of so big. And also, you know, they have like protection that Gil can't interact with in the form of protection of the angels, right? So Gil can't cancel that, so a lot of their stuff survives. So then they just get to go, cool, I'm playing Stone of Omniscience, pay for. Like, this is going to get you stopped. Like, this is going to kill your Gil. My Brunhild is going to, or my Mistletoe is going to swing and kill your Gil. Ta-da! Like, you know, and it's, Gil, I think, don't get me wrong, there's nothing in this set that I've seen so far that I think Gil is going to pick up. Maybe the green spell that lets him bring back a spell, because he can't comfortably play Spinning Aqua Soul anymore. So, like, maybe, because it fills a similar gap. But there hasn't been anything so far that I'm like, oh yeah, Gil's going to play this. There is a lot of stuff that I'm going to say that Gil's going to go, I'm going to play against this.
Yeah. does the stuff that he doesn't want to go against that's power in these other decks make them more powerful in the end, or like these will be the? I'm like, because I saw a post and it's from one of the EU players, and I can't remember who, if it was Benjamin or Lars or JPK, because they're all the most vocal ones from the EU.
Right.
But one of them said whatever is introduced that can help take down the Gil deck is gonna end up being too strong to compete with all the other things.
That was Jean Paul. He mentioned it in the end of the interview at GP Minnesota, and he said, in order to answer Gil, you have to print something that's more powerful than Gil, and that's the problem. That you just don't want to power ramp like that. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, particularly simply because the thing that makes Gil is inherently very strong. The thing that is the nail in the coffin that stops decks that could have an out to him is the fact that he has barrier, right? It is that subtle nuance, that one keyword that just tells a Gil, that like makes Gil players very comfortable and very safe. Anything that can toy with that barrier suddenly opens up Gil to a whole lot of hurt, right? Like, if they printed a card, let's just say they print a card in, what's something that does a lot of, like, let's put it in water, because water has done, like, transformation kind of stuff, right? What if water just got a card that said, cards cannot gain barrier? Okay. Like an addition that just says, cards can't gain barrier. Great! Like, okay, let's have some fun, you know, like, or Darkness. Darkness has a card that says, J rulers, you can't control game barrier. You control game barrier. Technically, Darkness already has a way to kill Gil with Oborozuki, but man, are you never getting to 6 will? You're never gonna resolve it, like, because of Lowrite, right? So like, Lowrite's just gonna stop it and stuff like that. There is a thing that could possibly kill all J rulers, right? It just doesn't. It's just not there yet. But if Darkness had a thing that just said cards lose and cannot gain barrier, great. Okay, cool. We've got a lot of effects out there that put minus counters on things, that put negative stat line, you know, that can manipulate, you know, other creatures' stat lines, that kind of stuff. The thing that makes Gil really that nail in the coffin, in my opinion, is just that he has barrier. So if we can find something in this next set, I think that just like a silver bullet against Gil, it's not going to necessarily give anything else particularly a huge amount of strength. Name me another. So outside of Winds Protection of the Angels, which gives instant speed barrier, can any of you think of, right off the bat, a card in this current meta that is super relevant that has barrier?
I think Karura. I mean, I also don't know what's really.
Karura has barrier chant. Right?
I don't think the Hanzo deck still runs the
Played in Gil.
The other his barrier rune, right? His rune that gives barrier.
There's the whirlwind technique, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking about.
Right, that's occasionally used based on the matchup. I mean, it's like you can kind of choose whether or not to put that in there, right? Okay, and then Gil Lapis the Resonator, right? Okay, so green card that's occasionally used, green card that's occasionally used only in Gil, green card that's used only in Gil.
We do have a red barrier card coming out, which I'm pretty excited for.
Yeah, right. Great. Not relevant yet, Colin. Like
current meta, man. Jeez.
I just pointed out. I forgot about that.
You can see what I'm talking about. Like there are chinks that could be opened up in Gil's armor without having to become super broken, right? It's just a matter of, is the company going to allow us to exploit those, like give us something to exploit that? Because
and I think a lot of it too is like some decks, like for I was just thinking about Lancelot, who is able to blank out J Ruler's abilities and destroy the entire field. But like, is that enough to I don't know if that's enough to even handle Gil, and it counts out.
Well, that's cute because
late.
Gil just goes, here's the Lorite. Thanks for burning 10 counters, right? It needs to be a continuous. It needs to be a passive that opens up Gil, right? The new Chimimi Master Rune opens up Gil because it's a 1-drop non-quick cast. So, like, Chimimi can get into a counter war over it, or if you decide to burn a 3, like, the only counters you have to it are Vanish and Ruin Story, right? Ruin Story ain't going to cancel it. She just going to pay 1 more. Vanish, you paid 3 will to stop a 1-drop. She just goes, cool, here's another one. Kill your Gil. You know what I mean?
So
like,
you would use it to kill Gil instead of like pushing for a game, because
absolutely.
Yeah.
That the strength of that card, and I'll say it like this: we have technically had a card that says your opponent's stuff can't block this entire format.
But it's also in red.
It doesn't matter, because it's the exact same cost for white to play that card as this new one. It's the exact same cost. White could have played it for 4 will and played Chainbind, and said your opponents can't block. Cool, swing in for lethal. Didn't play it. The power of that card comes from the ability to control your opponent and force them to take unfavorable trades. Hands down, it is the new final battle. It is technically the new final battle. Like, only it's a pseudo-fair final battle, right? Because it's not instant guaranteed removal like final battle was. And so your opponent can play outs to it. And if you don't have resonators, that card is awful. If you didn't have a board state and you had a final battle, you didn't care. You were just like, cool, final battle. Wipe. This card is a situational final battle. And I think that is the power of it. Like, imagine this, right? I'm playing white, playing against a non-green deck, so this card's going to resolve or whatever. I have a Misty on board. I have something else, whatever. I'm actually choosing to play this card over Blade of Faith in the Rune deck. Right? So, you have a couple of Resonators, I have a couple of Resonators. You have a really huge dude, bigger than Misty, and a tiny dude. I have Messenger of the Sun, Air, because I used it to revive the Messenger of the Sun, Misty. Right? That's like an okay board state. I'm gonna cast this card for 4. I'm gonna draw a card off a Messenger of the Sun. I'm gonna revive an Air, get a different thing back because I cast it from the Rune deck. I'm gonna swing at you, the player, and I'm going to force you to block with your giant dude. Cool. Misty's going to kill your giant dude, and I just hit you in the face for 12. And I drew a card, and I revived 2 bodies. Then my air is going to swing at you and force your tiny dude to block. Cool, that's dead too. I'm sitting on 5 resonators, I drew a card, you have no board. And you took 12 damage to the face. Like, it's the fact that you are going to be able to control board states that gives that card so much gas. And I think that people first looked at it and went, oh, you can just force your opponent not to block. That's so surface level for what that card is capable of, and we've been able to do that up to this point anyway, and no one's doing it. Like, this format has been all, especially for most decks, right? This format has been all about, I develop my board, you develop your board, I hope my board can trade favorably with your board, right? Congrats, we have a card that literally just says, guarantee yourself favorable trades on your opponent's entire board state. Sounds great.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, that. This format is going to be, this past format was already very important for about like tempo-based removal and like making sure that you managed your opponent's resonators and like controlling how many they got and which ones you allowed to keep and stuff like that. With this new card coming into the format, that's become even more important because you want to be able to punish people playing that card, but also those players just got a new tool to be able to do that really effectively. The thing that's been nice, I think, has been that most of the colors, at least right now that I'm seeing, have ways to keep resonator counts low to make sure that that card doesn't become the bomb. Like there's a lot of instant speed spot removal. There's a lot of different ways to kind of manipulate in response to that card being cast, like in every color. And I think that's what's going to be. I think we're going to see a shift in deck construction, that we're going to start seeing more spot removal come up, more tempo-based cards come back, like, because you're just going to want to make sure that we're going to see like 1, 2, 3 resonator boards like being the norm. Like, people aren't going to let boards go wide anymore, because it's just going to open up a lot of holes, and it's going to open yourself up to being final battled, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, no, that's because the easiest way to counter it without running counter cards is just to make it a dead card in someone's hand.
Just make it dead.
And as a side note, Oscar, I remembered what the other thing we were going to mention was, but it'll be a good. It's a good Patreon mini podcast topic, so I'll save it for that.
Sounds good. Sorry, I kind of droned on there, Joey. I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah, it's good. It did. It was good. Good talk, and I think it's an interesting take on and answer on Gil.
Yeah, I would love to see Gil go down hard. Like, and I think, don't get me wrong, I have that deck sleeved up literally right over there, and I love it. But because I put in the reps on it, but at the same time, like, I think that's one of the things that, as a card game player, I've never been disappointed or upset that a deck that I really enjoy gets hit, because I'm usually the one also advocating for it. Like, I had a blast playing Sherry, super glad she was gone. I had a blast playing Reflect Refrain, super glad that card was gone. I won my invite to Worlds playing Prisia, that card needed to never be printed. Like, like, so I'm rooting for people to take down Gil. I'm rooting for it to happen, and I think it can.
Yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
I'm pretty excited to see how the next GP and everything lays out.
Oh man,
pretty interesting.
Pennsylvania's gonna be so weird.
Yeah.
This is gonna be event release weekend.
I'm hoping it's going to be just all these people trying out all these weird ideas they've cooked up in 1 week.
It's going to be a lot of red. New format, just turn things sideways and pray.
Real quick, last few minutes here before we take off, but
sure.
Because you have the Adoraktia poster behind you, we obviously got a little teaser from the Forcible Company of us going back to Adoraktia, but before the timeline of SKL taking place. So
yeah, so I am torn on that.
I'm interested because I think part of what made SKL a lot of fun was we came from Grim over with Alice and Kaguya, and they kind of brought their little resonators with them. Now we're not going to have that at all, so it's kind of just devoid of Alice and Kaguya and things like that.
So I'm not entirely sold on not having Alice. Particularly because if you actually read the story, when she shows up back in Adoraktia, she's been there before.
Oh, okay.
Because the first time we get introduced to the storyline is way back when Faria and Melgus are not friends. I mean, they're not friends ever, but like actually at war with each other. And right in the middle of that fight, Alice just kind of like shows up, and she's like, "Hey, what's up? I'm Saint Alice. Stop fighting. Let's be friends, and I'll be back later. Bye." And then she just leaves. You're like, okay. And then like she shows up again with the current timeline. So like Alice, I'm pretty sure could still potentially be a part of it, which would be dope because I love Alice in Wonderland. So
I'd be interested to see
Sylvia probably there.
Yeah.
It's just because so I thought Sylvia was part of Gil's Blazer Gills and their team. So I didn't know
she was a slave girl that was but she was from Blazer's clan. So the question becomes is where is the origins of that clan? And it seemed like maybe that's here. Maybe that's wherever the new stuff, like wherever Gil's arc takes place. I don't remember if we ever had that actual name, like that land created, in terms of name. But it seems like that's where it's from. But you know, it'd be interesting to see if that's not entirely true, and maybe she just got pulled in somehow. The whole transforming into a dragon thing. We know that she has a clan of some kind, like the Palaralias clan or whatever. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see young Machina before he becomes a machine.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And more machines in general.
Yeah, because more machines in general, yes. But also the precursors, right, is when he's still human and doing his machine work, which means we probably see young Maribel potentially. And so
also it'd be cool to see like
we had those on cards and stuff.
BFA, which was like a reflection,
which was still like a flashback.
Spirits.
Yeah,
it was a flashback spirit kind of stuff.
It'd be cool, especially to do like some flavorful stuff of like Machina's. He's making the machines at first, so they're not as good as before, but they bring back like the explode mechanic, because the machines, when they hit stuff, they just blow up because they're not as well made back then. Yeah. So they have shittier stats, but they have these downsides that technically can be upsides and stuff. So it's more volatile and stuff.
That. I just don't want Regalia back, or if I want, sorry, yeah. I will preface this: if we have Regalia back, they need to be done right. They need to not cost 0, and they need to only be usable by the ruler that's named on them.
I
proposed the idea of how different would things have been if let's grab the card Levitin, right? Let's just pull that out of a random hat. Let's call the card Levitin. But if that card had pretty much all the same abilities, right? The sack pump, like all of those things, but the pitch to produce red and swiftness were only allowed if your ruler was Melgus. Or like the sack to untap. Like the sack to untap and the swiftness were only allowed if your ruler was Melgus.
You better.
That would have changed a lot. That would have changed a lot, right? Even at a 0 cost, that would have changed a lot.
Yeah.
Right? I never want a Regalia to be printed 0 cost again, ever. But at the same time, if they bring back the concept of Regalia, but do them right, to where the most influential abilities are actually directly tied and only usable by the champion who's supposed to be using them, then like that would be fine. Or consider this: how about a Regalia that's a master rune?
I was just thinking that.
Like you cast the Regalia, you cast the Regalia, right? And you can only cast it. Like you could put it in the deck and it has one effect, but then you put it in the rune deck, and if you cast it, then it gives bonuses only if your J ruler is that ruler, right? So you're just like Levitin, right? Levitin's a card that if you play it from deck, it's if you play it from hand, it's an addition resonator, right? But then in the rune deck, it's a Regalia J ruler. It's attached to the J ruler, and you can only play it in the rune deck if your ruler is X, and then like suddenly it gets something kind of cool, extra bonus. But like I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how that would work, but that's my only hesitation, is that we're going back into a world where Regalia were created. Fun character, fun characters, fun world building, fun landscape. Like, but
let's find out what's in that desert that we never saw.
just this dead desert over here.
Yeah,
doing nothing.
It'd be cool.
I want to learn more about Rezard and like his whole upbringing and like his mom and dad dying. I want to bring back the stealth mechanic.
Yeah, I was going to say, because Jeff was on here with us talking about he handed his notes over, and his notes had a way to bring back stealth. And now we're going back to Ataractia, where Rezard's from. It'd be cool to see them attempt to implement stealth again based on his notes.
You just make it so that they have the same rules as standbys. Like you fix stealth by making them have the same rules as standbys.
Yeah.
They have to wait.
I always thought it was weird that it didn't, but
They just have to wait a turn.
But I'll be interested to see how we get to interact it, because usually everything's lore-wise, like we were traveled there somehow, rather than just...
lore is out the window at this point.
Yeah.
We don't even freaking know what's going on in the current cluster. We got nothing.
Yeah. It's just like a travel, but like a travel of some sort. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. But I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you for joining us for episode 73.
Good to be here.
It was fun. Hadn't had you in a while. And, we'll see you again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully you guys get the funding you need to go out and stream that event. So.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you all next time.